So if you've ever dreamed of swimming with orcas near Ensenada de Muertos, or maybe running a little business in the legendary winds of La Ventana, you need to listen up. Because starting in 2026, the entire game is changing, and I mean dramatically. Understanding this massive shift in the rules, it's not optional anymore. Honestly, it's the price of admission to one of the most incredible places on Earth. Okay, let's get into it. And look, the stakes could not be higher. This quote, it's from an internal government briefing, and it is brutally honest. The very soul of the region is facing an existential threat. Now, what's so interesting here is that the threat isn't just development or tourism in general. No, it's something very specific. A sprawling, unregulated shadow economy that's been flying under the radar for way too long. And this is what the new reality looks like on the ground. You're going to see signs just like this one popping up. They make it crystal clear that unpermitted foreign labor is now seen as a direct threat. A threat to the local culture, to public safety, and to that fragile marine ecosystem we all love. The community and the authorities are completely on the same page here. And trust me, they're taking this very, very seriously. So how in the world do you navigate this new landscape? Well, we've laid out a clear roadmap for you in this explainer. We're going to start with the risks, then we'll break down the new rules, the compliance pillars. We'll show you the 2 legal ways you can operate, detail the steep price of getting it wrong, and wrap up by talking about what it really means to be a guardian of this place. All right, first up, a region at risk. Let's get right to the heart of the problem that the authorities are so determined to fix. This whole world of unpermitted, untaxed businesses, this shadow economy that's become a huge liability for everybody. So, what's the actual damage here? Well, this slide really breaks it down. This shadow economy, it pushes skilled local workers out of jobs, which really eats away at the local culture. It operates without any mandatory insurance or safety certs, which puts tourists like you in real danger. It completely ignores critical conservation rules. And, it creates this deeply unfair playing field by skipping out on the taxes and social security that all the legitimate local businesses have to pay. And that brings us to the solution, the 2026 compliance pillars. Now, this isn't just one new rule they've thrown out there. It's a whole framework of interlocking regulations designed to protect the local workforce, that one-of-a-kind environment, and the very fabric of the community. At the absolute core of the labor rules is the 90-10 rule. And this is a big one. It's a strict federal law. At least 90% of any company's workforce must be Mexican nationals. So for inspectors checking out a tour operator or a kite school, seeing a team of mostly foreigners is now a massive, flashing red flag. The goal here is simple: stop pushing out local talent. And building on that 90-10 rule, there are 2 other non-negotiables. First, a mandatory 40-hour work week, and it has to be tracked with uneditable electronic time logs. You know those old paper logs? Yeah, that's now an immediate sign that you're not compliant. Second, you have to show documented proof of workplace safety and wellness training. If you miss even one of these, you're risking an immediate shutdown. Next up, the environmental pillar. And this is all about protecting the region's most famous residents. They're calling it the Orca Standard, and it's a new set of incredibly strict rules for the Cerralvo Channel. It's all designed to maintain what scientists call acoustic integrity, which in plain English means keeping the water quiet enough for the orcas to communicate, to hunt, and just to thrive. And this just shows you how serious they are. There's now a hard cap. Only 16 boats are allowed in an observation zone at any given time. Every single tour boat has to have real-time GPS tracking. And get this, for the entire 2025-2026 season, only 50, that's 50, permits for orca and whale watching were issued. For the entire region, the takeaway here is crucial. Access is now a rare privilege, not a right. And finally, the community pillar. This one might just be the most important piece of the puzzle. It's called a social license to operate. And what it means is that having all your federal paperwork perfectly in order, well, it's not enough. You also have to have a formal agreement, a memorandum of understanding, with the local ejido, the communal landowners, proving that your project actually benefits their community. If they don't give you their blessing, you simply can't operate. Period. Okay, so you get the new rules, but how do you actually follow them? Let's get practical. Section 3, 2 paths to legitimacy. We're going to look at exactly how a foreigner can work or run a business the right way, the legal way, under this new framework. As you can see here, you've basically got 2 choices. On one hand, there's the entrepreneurial pathway. This is for people who want to build a bigger operation. It means incorporating a Mexican company, getting a tax ID, registering as an employer, the whole shebang. On the other hand, there's the personal pathway. This is for individuals like a freelance guide or an instructor. That journey starts with getting residency, then a specific work permit, and then registering yourself with the tax authority. Let's just walk through that personal pathway to make it real. Step 1, and this is so critical, you have to apply for your residency from outside of Mexico at a Mexican consulate where you prove you can support yourself financially. Once you're in Mexico and have your residency card, then you can apply for a work permit. After that, you register with SIT, the tax folks, to get your tax ID. And just a heads up, be prepared to pay, because government fees for all this pretty much doubled in 2026. Now for the big question. What happens if someone just decides to roll the dice and ignore all this? Section 4, the price of non-compliance. And the single most important thing to take away from this is that the era of looking the other way, it's officially over. There's a new tech-driven enforcement model, and it's here to stay. This interagency net is really tightening. There's a new government website where anyone can anonymously report violations. Immigration is now cross-referencing the port's boat logs with their work permit database. The tax authority is using AI to scan payment apps like Venmo and PayPal for business income that hasn't been declared. Oh, and the National Guard? They're now providing security for joint agency raids on businesses that aren't playing by the rules. And this is what that enforcement looks like on paper. Over on the left, you've got the official audit checklist. This is literally what inspectors will be looking for when they show up. On the right is the notice of compliance. You can think of one as the final exam and the other as your passing grade. You definitely want the one on the right. When we talk about the fines, they are severe. Think of this number not as the grand total, but as the starting point. This is a potential fine from the tax authority, SAT, just for running an unregistered business. The fines from all the other agencies, they get piled right on top. Because the consequences escalate, and they escalate fast. It starts with huge fines and getting banned from using community lands. Step 2 is getting detained and deported. From there, your name and your photo go into a public registry of identified offenders, which gets shared internationally. Your passport gets flagged, which can lead to permanent travel bans, not just from Mexico, but potentially other countries too. So for our final section, let's shift gears a bit. Let's move away from fear and talk about responsibility, becoming a guardian, more than just compliance. This is all about moving past the legal minimums and becoming an active, positive part of the region's future. And what's really fascinating about this slide is how it shows that something as simple as a name can signal your entire attitude. Using the correct historical name, Ensenada de Muertos, it shows you respect the local community. But using that old defunct developer name, Bahía de los Sueños, is now a red flag for inspectors. It just signals that you're disconnected from the community and its new rules. See, true stewardship goes way beyond just following the law. It means you're actively participating in local conservation agreements, like the Agua Amarga Stewardship Charter. It means you're contributing valuable data to citizen science logs on every single one of your tours. It means you're prioritizing hiring and training local residents, and you're making sure the money from tourism actually flows back to support the local fishing community. So when you boil it all down, here's the bottom line. This whole new framework isn't just a bunch of red tape. It really is the price of admission. It's the cost of entry to a community that has made a very conscious and probably very difficult choice to live for the sea, not just from it. Which really just leaves us with one final question. And it's not just for business owners, but for every single person who loves this place. As you look toward 2026 and beyond, you have to decide, are you just a visitor or are you a guardian?